Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to thank my colleague from North Dakota for really being a leader in recognizing the needs that we have across rural America, the needs that we are facing in the heartland for farmers, ranchers, rural communities, rural hospitals. When we're looking at this pandemic and the effects it has all across this country, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we are a very diverse nation. We are a nation of condensed urban areas, and we are a nation with extreme vastness. I happen to live in a county which is in the middle of cattle country here in the United States, where we have less than 1 person per square mile, and there's over 6,000 square miles in my county. We understand what being rural means. We understand the differences that exist, not just within the state of Nebraska, but that exist here in this country. And we believe that that diversity needs to be recognized when we are talking about providing relief to families, relief to small businesses, and recovery. But first we have to get to the relief. We can't get on this bill right now, which what I hear from my constituents, and I know all of you, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, I know all of you are hearing from your constituents how really ridiculous we look, because we can't get on a bill for political reasons. I hope that as we move forward, we are able to provide relief to families. People are in need, people are hurting, people are scared, and we are here talking, which is a good thing if we come to a positive outcome, but we don't have much time. We have small businesses across this country that are hurting. I've heard from my dentist, I've heard from my neighbors who are very concerned about what's going on and if they're even going to be able to provide for their employees, their families, and have a business to come back to. But when you talk about livestock, I think Nebraskans have a good understanding of that, because livestock is the economic engine in the state of Nebraska. It's the biggest revenue provider in agriculture in the state of Nebraska. It is a part of that ag economy that drives our state's economy. And that's why working on provisions that are going to help producers helps every single person in my state. We reached out in my office to a number of my friends and my neighbors who are family ranchers, family farmers, and asked them, what's going on? The senator from North Dakota talked about the losses, extreme losses that we're looking at. And when I'm talking about farmers and ranchers, I'm talking about family farmers and family ranchers, and how people are looking at their families, they're looking at their neighbors, they're looking at their communities. This coronavirus is adding another dimension to an already battered agriculture economy. And this disease has been driving down crop and livestock prices. And therefore, I am adamant that in this bill, we have to provide relief to address that. And my colleague from North Dakota, to be able to lead on this and come up with a solution that will help families, neighborhoods, communities, and my state, I thank him. We've seen ag futures that have been dropping since February. Prices that have been offered for ranchers' cattle have been dropping. Ethanol plants, they're starting to idle. They're starting to close down across the country. And there's a lot of unsold grain that is sitting out in the countryside, or it's in farm storage right now. In cattle, I can speak to this. We've seen large volumes of negotiated cattle being procured at lower prices. We've seen sharply rising box beef market, both in volume and in price. As of last Thursday, Mr. President, cattle volume at live auctions declined by 75%. And that's due to folks who are practicing social distancing. And that, in turn, has caused a $10 to $15 drop in market price. Feeder cattle sales have slowed down. If you drive around counties in my state where we see a lot of fed cattle, you'll see empty pens. Feeders are getting hit twice, and arguably the hardest. Suppliers, which include ethanol plants, they're telling feeders that they have maybe 1 to 2 weeks max where they can provide feed to them. And then those family farms, they're going to be in trouble because those ethanol plants are going to idle or they're going to shut down, and that's going to cause feeders to worry about supply. The panic buying that we're seeing in the news, it can be correlated back to that high volume of beef that's being sold. We can see packers are selling large volumes of beef with outstanding consumer demand. You know, as a cattle rancher, you want to see that consumer demand. But not in these times when they're so uncertain. We've had packers communicate that they're going to continue to ramp up production. We are grateful for that, and it is needed to meet that high demand. Beef sales are increasing, box beef prices are. And producers, Mr. President, producers need to be able to share in the price gains of this unexpected surge in demand. In reality, the opposite has been happening. I've been working with my colleagues on measures that's in the CARES Act to provide some relief to people in my state and across the heartland who are working to keep the world fed during this pandemic. The provision that we have in this current version of the bill, it will help provide relief to cow-calf producers and feeders through a Commodity Credit Corporation, the CCC that we've talked about, so we can have that increase, so that livestock, beef, pork, poultry can be included. And that can also assist other commodities. This provision is needed. These dollars are the vehicle that we can use to help our producers get the relief that they need during these tough times. You know, so many times I hear from my neighbors, you leave agriculture out all the time. You don't think about rural America. Well, we do. We always do. And we have now to listen to colleagues on the other side put off a vote is appalling. People are suffering. People must be helped. We need to be here to provide relief and to have a plan for recovery. We have that. We worked in a bipartisan way to have it. Agriculture must be a part of that. Thank you, Mr. President.